was 17 and I just graduated high school. I found out I had plans to go to college, and I found out I was pregnant, and I was really scared of letting my parents down. We had talked about my plans for the future and plans to go to college, and my boyfriend and I, we had only been dating for a few months. I found out that he was cheating on me, and so we broke up. And at that point, I was feeling really scared and alone, and I didn't tell anybody that I was pregnant. And so I just, at that time, I thought having an abortion was my only option. But I thought, what is this gonna do to my future? How am I gonna go to college if I'm pregnant or if I have a baby? And I was definitely just scared of what people would think, and scared of how I was gonna raise a baby by myself. I had to wait till I was 18 to do it, and at that point I was pretty much right at 12 weeks. So I had gone to Planned Parenthood before that and just kind of talked about my options, and obviously abortion was one of those options. And I had to go to the clinic in South Bend, the Women's Pavilion, and have it done. It was really dark and kind of just scary in there. I felt really alone. I had a friend drive me, but I didn't really have any moral support or anything, so it was really quiet on the way there. And they take you into a room for counseling, but it's not really counseling. They just basically tell you what to expect. What's going to happen with the procedure and everything. Sat and waited, and then they called me back, and it was, I don't really remember much about the procedure. It was just very, it was cold and dark, and I just wanted to get it done and get out of there. I wasn't walking with the Lord. I knew Jesus as he was taught in Sunday school, but I didn't know the Jesus that loved a filthy sinner like me. And then that led into just a downward spiral of bad choices, drugs and alcohol and promiscuity. And I just felt a lot of guilt and shame for the choice that I made, and then all the choices that followed that. When I was 25, I had my son, and at that point in time I was ready to have a child, and I think that it was just to make up for the child that I gave up. I felt a lot of guilt, and so I felt like maybe my son would replace that child. And at that point I didn't reach out or talk to anybody about my abortion. Nobody really knew about it. And then a few years later, I started going to church and gave my life to Jesus, and I was baptized. And I really pursued him and pursued a walk with him, but still felt like there was something hindering my relationship with God. And I didn't realize that it was because I hadn't forgiven myself for my abortion. When I would talk to people or start connecting with people from church, I just felt like I couldn't get close to them. I would keep them at arm's length because I was afraid of them getting to know me and getting to know anything about my past, all the stuff that I was ashamed of, the abortion and everything that followed that. And I had a friend who told me about Retta, and she had talked to me a few times about doing the Bible study, Forgiven and Set Free, and she was one of the very few people that I had opened up to about my abortion. She had encouraged me to do the Bible study, but every time she brought it up, I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't ready to follow through and commit to it. And one day I was really seeking the Lord, but in a dry place, and I was just praying that He would reveal to me whatever was hindering my relationship with Him. And and I had a vision that Jesus looked at me bloody as he was carrying the cross, and told me that he did that for me, and that he loved me. And so that broke me a little bit, and I just knew that God was doing something. And I was watching this YouTube sermon, and the pastor was talking about evangelizing at abortion clinics, and he had brought a woman up on stage, and she shared her testimony. Her and her husband were about to go through with having an abortion, and him and his friend were evangelizing, and something they did or said had stopped her from having her abortion. And she brought her baby up on stage, and at that point in time, I I felt like God was speaking to me, and it really touched me, and I just kind of hit the floor and started crying. And I just knew that woman's testimony was meant for me. And so I had reached out to my friend who had been trying to encourage me of doing the Forgiven and Set Free Bible study. And so I decided to commit to that. And I met with Tanya and started the process. It was the best thing that I've ever done in my relationship with the Lord. I learned how to forgive other people in my experience. I learned how to forgive myself. I learned how to overcome the guilt and the shame of my past and who I was. I learned who I was in Christ, and that none of my past choices define me.